How's that? Believe in it? What's up, folks? Today is, well, actually, not only today, but about between 5 and 10 minutes ago, just about, it's actually the 1st of January, 2024. 2025. Holy cow, it's 2025. Shout out to our earthly existence and how we measure time. So, this is In the Image Clothing Company podcast. My name is Evan Strong. I am the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, a company that we focus on the human body through, right? We talk about clothing, and clothing is the only thing that's placed physically on our bodies at all times. It's the thing that has the highest potential to alter our bodies. Now, we have three sides to us. This is the podcast, In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We have the main company side of things, which is just In the Image Clothing Company. And then we have In the Image Clothing Company music, where we do fun things with music and informational stuff as well. So here at the podcast, we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. Our entire company is founded on the truth of all things, which is the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is in our name. In the image, we are all universally designed in our living God's image. So we discuss the human body. We just allow it to work. That's always the key word with us. Pants for everybody, man, woman, tall, short, fat, skinny, any age, need to be entirely above the hips just to allow the hips to have their motion and do what they do. Slightly higher in the front than the rear with that waistband. Otherwise, that core that needs to contract to activate can't. And the core would always naturally be activated unless altered. So the tops that we wear, the seams on the tops need to sit behind the little bone that's up here. That's actually the other end of our collarbone. That will allow our shoulders to be in their neutral position. And then ideally just right at the very edges for those edge seams. Now, besides where clothing sits, there's two prerequisites that I always say to just allow the body to have a chance to operate natural in these ways. Lacing our shoes with the technique that In the Image Clothing Company uses. You can find that where you find us, anywhere online. Being now 2025, you can find us. Included with the technique is to tie your shoes evenly over toward the inside, giving us an even foundation traveling up the body. And the second prerequisite is to remove all tags from clothing. That does include the tongues of the shoes. If you can't quite get them out, you can just put slits into them or roughen them up so that there's some texture for your ankle to dorsiflex. And look, in this position for this podcast episode, if you're watching this in visual, if it's just audio, you can't quite see this the way that you could if you're watching it. And that's fine. But yeah, dorsiflexion of the ankle needs to be allowed to happen through not having a slippery synthetic tag right on the top of the ankle there. So, all right, yes, there is our little rundown. Now let's get into this episode 24 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. I'm going to talk about the root canal story. I've mentioned that I had a root canal on my front left tooth here when I was 13 years old. I'm currently 25 years old, for some context on time. Now, I was 13 years old, and I was at a trampoline park, man. So here's the thing. I'm going to really incorporate this with the gospel. I'm going to really show some things that I sure did wrong. I'm going to be very vulnerable, very real with this because I did some terrible things, actually. And that's what I'm going to get into within this. If you're watching this in visual form, I have a photo of Christ on the other side of my room. And so sometimes I'm sitting here looking this way when I'm filming videos here and not actually looking at the camera lens here. So just, again, some context. Now, here we go. 13-year-old kid. I had been doing parkour. I have been doing flips, front flips, side flips, back flips, Websters, gainers on the ground or off ledges outside or whatever it would be like that, off rocks or stumps or little small things like that. I've been doing that since around 12 or 13 years old. And yeah, even this year I was doing some. It was last year I did my first gainer on the ground, which is like one of those one-footed swing through backflips like this, right? And anything I talk about within here, if you're just listening to this, because we have this podcast available in both forms, visual as well as audio, and then just audio only, don't feel like you're missing out if you can't see what I'm, if you can tell that I'm like doing visual references, don't worry about it. But anyway, so yeah, I was 13 years old, man, and there was this trampoline park here in Utah that we would go to, and I was going with my friends, and at that time it was a weird time for me, man, because growing up, my parents got divorced when I was 7. And my mom was really the only one within the household that was like getting us to church and like had a testimony, that was she was trying to keep us on the right path, dude. And there were some times growing up definitely where I was a little bit back and forth, a little bit all over the place. I mean, I'm talking in these times and then later through my life between that time and now, it's been rough. Mentioned quite a bit of that within the podcast, and I'm only going to get more open and vulnerable with all that as we go on. So, but yeah, and even back in this time, there was a lot that I was like, not so not so on the right path, man. And I was in junior high. I was in 7th grade at this time, and that's a time when I was nervous and lost. And the reason I mentioned why my parents, or the reason that I mentioned that my parents divorced when I was 7, is because I was just living alone with my dad, and my sister at that time as well. She's my only other sibling. And so I just didn't have so much like rooted gospel around me. And friends were inviting me to church, and I was still, in certain ways involved with the church, but and the gospel. But in a lot of ways, I'm in junior high now, and I'm like nervous, and I'm not sure who I am anymore, and I'm getting caught up in the world because it's just the potential that we all have, and it happens, and it's not so bad for it to happen in certain ways because it gives us good perspective. But man, I got into, like, I was swearing all the time, and I was just like this rough kid, man. I was going to school, wearing big old skate shoes and oversized hoodies and sagging my pants and longboarding everywhere. Had that, longer, like flippy hair at that time. And man, as far as I know, I had quite long hair throughout my life. Certain times it was like down to here, like past my armpits, like pretty darn long, man. About 18 inches plus, probably right around 2 feet actually, at its longest. So anyway, I just, I was going through some phases though in this particular time here in junior high, man, and a little bit scared, a little bit lost. I was being told who I was within my household at home, and I didn't feel like I had any kind of like love in the home or any kind of family. A lot of that was perceived, and a lot of that was just the case. And so I was caught up with some people that I shouldn't have been, and I started saying some things and talking with all this slang and, saying some really derogatory things and getting caught up in lifestyle choices that I shouldn't have been doing, and just forewarning, in the Image Clothing Company podcast, just our company as a whole, in the Image Clothing Company, we are raw and real. We're not holding back things and trying to pretend we are something that we aren't. That's the whole point here, is to get the real us to be there, that we have hidden for reasons over our life. So, just forewarning, I'm just going to be really raw with what I talk about within this. So, I'm 13 years old, and, I never asked for any money growing up. I never asked for money until recently. There has been times within the past couple of years I have in ways asked for money, but just for sake of context. And for some reason, my dad just like offered to give me money to, he would do that every once in a while, but he offered to give me money to go with my friends to this trampoline park because we're doing flips, at the park outside, just into these little like chips of wood. But you go to the trampoline park and you've got trampolines, you've got foam pits, like a big old like pit in the ground with these blocks of foam that you can land into, and it's really soft. And so anyway, I ended up going with my friends to this trampoline park, and man, we were there, dude, and I was just not having it. A lot of it was a lot of guilt, even though my dad offered to give me the money. I didn't ask for it, but he just offered to give me the money to go. Man, I was programmed with a lot of guilt in a lot of ways, man, and I didn't want to receive things or accept things even when it was like something somebody was offering, because I felt like it was some kind of trick or trap. And so there's a lot of guilt, and I don't know, as of right now, if there was other stuff going on like that time or in that day or whatever, maybe like I was, maybe not. I honestly don't know, but I just remember feeling a lot of guilt, and I think that was a big part of it. Well, also just having to sign a waiver, I was a minor, and so my dad had to sign a waiver, and not trying to be mean, throwing anyone under the bus, but this is the case. My dad wasn't so happy about doing that kind of stuff, and so trying to get my dad to sign the waiver and trying to, go there, and then I felt guilty about, even though there was no other way for it to happen, felt guilty about having him have to do that, and then he offered to pay for me to go anyway, and a lot of stuff, in the programming there, and so anyway, I already went into this whole experience not having a good time, but I wanted to go at the same time because I loved doing flips and loved, trampoline parks, and so I'm there and my mindset's not in the right place, man. And at the time I was doing some pretty crazy stuff for a 13-year-old, I mean, there's some little kids that are doing major stuff, but as far as like 4 or 5-year-olds or younger even, but for me, I thought it was kind of crazy, man. I was doing like front flip 360s, back flip 360s, on these trampolines, and I could do them well. I could do them really well at the time. But, I was there, we were just jumping around, flipping around, doing fun stuff, and I remember there was these kids, man. Keep in mind, I'm 13 years old, and these kids were younger than me. They were probably 9, 10 maybe. These kids were like kind of getting in my way, me and one of these dudes that was with us, and he was like kind of new to our group to a degree. And anyway, there was these younger kids that was kind of getting in my way, and I was already in such a terrible mood. It was guilt, though. It wasn't like I was mad, but it was like I was feeling guilty for things that I didn't do wrong, but I just didn't know what, being told who you were and how you should feel and stuff all growing up. It was just, I didn't know what to do a lot of time, man. And so what ended up happening, dude, is these kids younger than me, probably, like I said, somewhere around that age I mentioned, they were getting in my way, but I don't know how much of it was just me getting so, like, into my emotions and feeling things I didn't know how to understand, or how much they actually were intentionally getting in my way, but I was cussing these kids out, like, straight up. They're just little kids. I mean, I'm, in a sense, kind of a little kid, kind of, still at that point, and, like, I'm just cussing out these little kids. And I just remember just feeling this just immense emotion. Really what it was is guilt that wasn't even justified. Like guilt for things I didn't actually do wrong. But just guilt that was being placed on me, and all these things. Like I was a scapegoat growing up, man, and that's just how it was. So I was just not feeling it, dude. But I was trying to have a good time at this place as well because, it's such a privilege for me. That's how I felt, to be able to go to a trampoline park like that. But within it was this mixed guilt of like, yeah, my dad offered to pay, but at the same time, he's making me feel like it's my fault that he has to do it. Like, and all this stuff, man. And so doing these flips, and there was this ledge in the middle, probably about 3 feet off the ground, maybe like 10 feet by 5 feet, something like that, wide. And around it's got trampolines. And so what I did is I was like jumping off the edge of that ledge and landing on the tramp, and then first jump doing a front flip 360. And I could do it. And I had done it a few times, but then I did it one of those times, and when I came around, right, you picture a full front flip, and within that front flip, you're also doing a full 360. So it's all together, right? Something I could do well at the time. And I did it that time, right? And I came around and I just wasn't high enough. My heels hit the tramp, well, kind of in a position I'm sitting like this. My heels hit the tramp and my knee came up and hit me in the tooth, right? Instead of landing like nice and extended, I was just really squatted down. So my heels hit and that knee hit me, my left knee to my left front tooth. Because, yeah, you get pretty good at it and you kind of know where you are in the air, but still, you're doing a full 360 and a full flip at the same time. It's kind of a lot going on with the human body, really. And so, yeah, man. And yeah, a lot of there's a lot going on. So, yeah, I remember how hard I hit my front tooth, and I'm just like, oh, shoot, man. And like, blood's coming out, I was bleeding really good out of that front left tooth, and I'm just kind of like holding like the blood, and I go over to the bathroom and I just show my friends and tell them like, man, yeah, no, I did a front full and I hit my tooth with my knee, man. And like, I'm just like freaking out, in pain, and feeling the immense guilt that I was already feeling, plus the added guilt of now my dad's gonna kill me. He's gotta take me to the dentist. my dad's gonna kill me. He told me, to be careful and like to not push it and like take care of my body and all this stuff. So the guilt just got amplified even more. Plus, I didn't realize that until this year, and it's hit me so hard. I was cussing these kids out right before this happened. I mean, I don't know how many minutes before, or if it was within a half hour or something, but right before that happened, I deserved this. And that's something that I am content with and agree with. Through revelation, I've been given that I deserve this. And I'm going to get into why this was such a big thing besides just this one day when the event took place. But, man, I was acting so terrible, man. Cussing out little kids, bro. I mean, I was doing it straight up. Like, that's just what I was doing. So, and behavior like that comes from just, feeling bad about yourself. And the reason you feel bad about yourself is because the people around you feel bad about themselves and they project it on you, right? It's just that like generational cycle. And I was just playing into it. I didn't know, but that's what I was doing. So it's unexcusable. It was terrible behavior I was doing. So a lot of repentance for that day, man. Recently, I didn't even realize really until very recent what was going on. So anyway, I ended up going to the dentist, and well, what's funny is I didn't go to the dentist till at least a few days after that. I went home and just a lot of pain, but it stopped bleeding and everything. And what ended up happening is it killed the root of that tooth. That tooth died. There's a root in the center of your tooth that like gives life to your tooth. And so that's what a root canal is they drill a hole in the center of it and pull the root out once it's died or whatever, ends up happening to take that root out of there. So yeah, it was a few days later, and that's something I didn't realize for a long time either. And my mom had talked to me about this experience, like the whole root canal thing. We were talking about it like a month or two, 3-4 months ago, something like that. And she's like, no, well, yeah, you didn't go the same day. You went a few days after. I'm like, oh, I forgot. So yeah, it had been like a few days since the event. We went over to the dentist, and it wasn't the normal dentist that I was going to, like the pediatric, like the kid dentist that I was used to. And so we go over there, and I've had heart stuff, right? I've had 2 full open heart surgeries, and then 4 other like more minor surgeries, if you will, on my heart. And so when I go to the dentist, at least in the past, what I've done is take like a medication to kind of like, I think it's like an antibiotic, or like having the same intention of that, just because when you have dental work, it can potentially get into your bloodstream and travel to your heart. So that was the intention of doing what I've done in the past when I go to get dental work. And I wasn't so happy about swallowing pills at 13 years old. And all that we had, because like this liquid form of this medication, all that we had was this, a pill of this medication that they were wanting me to take at the time. And so I didn't want to swallow it, and I also didn't want to have a root canal, but the dentist was like, no, got to do it. The root's dead. You got to take it out. And I'm like, and then all this was amplified on top of the guilt of everything that was there, the justified guilt of me swearing at the kid, and then the unjustified guilt of my dad just making me feel guilty for stuff I wasn't actually doing wrong. So all this, man, and anyway, my mom, dude, she had a water bottle, right? And she was going to have me take the pill with the water bottle, but she had already been drinking out of the water bottle. She put her gum in the cap of the water bottle and put the cap back on it. And I didn't know. And so what ended up happening is, I don't know if I get this exactly right, but the gum was in the cap. And we ended up somehow putting we broke open the pill capsule and poured the stuff into the cap of the water bottle. And I put that into my mouth. And then I was like drinking out of her water bottle to like flush the stuff into my system. And I don't know if I didn't know that her gum was in it before, or if I saw her take it out or whatever, but I was grossed out by that, afraid of getting the root canal, plus all the other stuff, like so much happening, dude. And I was losing it, not having a good time. So I lay in this dentist chair and I get this root canal done. And, dental work is just how it is. And once he finishes up, I was, man, that's a lot of traumatic stuff to go through. Stuff in the mouth, man, is really invasive. Your jaw stabilizes your entire body and your breathing patterns and everything. You got to continue to breathe while they're propping your mouth open, and like you can potentially swallow stuff. I mean, it's a whole thing, bro. And so I was not having it, dude. And what ended up happening is when he's wrapping up and he's like finishing the root canal, he's like, they kind of, once you get dental work and they put like filling material in there, they normally sand it down to where it's even so you can like bite down nice and evenly, And the dude asked me, man. Well, I mean, first of all, during this whole thing, I kind of brushed over it, but yeah, it's traumatic, dude. Having dental work, especially because I mean, I had both of the full open heart surgeries, like the most major ones that I had were before this time, right? The second one was when I was 7 years old, so I got all this like memories and traumatic stuff from like surgeries and just invasive stuff within my body already. So dental work's something that, not so fun to go through for anybody. But then if you're coming at it with the background of having all this invasive stuff happen to your body, it's like definitely not so fun to have to go through. So he's wrapping up the root canal and he's sanding it down, and that excess filling material, and he's like, all right, bite down, tell me how that feels. And I just wanted to get out of the chair, dude. I was just like, I would rather this not be like fully sanded down and just go home. I just want to go lay down and like be done with this. And that wasn't the right choice because I can't express, dude, the amount of excess filling material on the back of my front left tooth that has been there until even today. Even the past few days, even today. My mom bought Papa Murphy's pizzas earlier today, and I was eating them. Well, I was eating pizza, and I've been intentionally chewing things to where they're wearing away that filling material, and this is somewhere around 12 years later, 13 years, but I think right around 12 years after this root canal took place. So just the amount of excess filling material back there on the rear of that front left tooth has been crazy for 12 years. So my bite has been nowhere near aligned. And then I got braces when I was 15. And so now they're trying to align my bite with this insane amount of excess filling material there. And the front teeth, man, they're the teeth that like they should barely not touch, and they're the teeth that you bend down like this and you can't if there's something in between them. So my breathing within, something popped up on the screen of what I'm filming this with, but it's good. My breathing for so many years, I mean, into my teenage years, man, I've experienced so much anxiety and depression, and I was on mental health medication for about 6 years, from 16 until 22, maybe. And dude, I mean, I couldn't even breathe. I didn't know any of this stuff at the time. It's crazy what we don't know when we're the ones experiencing it. But like, I couldn't even move my neck, and I couldn't breathe, and my whole jaw is so tense. And I've discussed this within some content for In The Image Clothing Company, but you can see within my smile for so many years, it was so imbalanced because my jaw couldn't even mesh anywhere normally aligned. And so I'm still getting aligned. That's been a lot of what's been happening within the imbalances within my body that are getting corrected through everything that I'm doing through the company. Yeah, so it's been a lot, man. And anyway, so I think a really big thing to just focus on within all this is I deserved it. And I'm content with saying that. And it's a weird thing because I was just so not doing the right thing for so many years, so far off of being a good disciple of Jesus Christ. And the day this root canal, the day that I hit my knee on my tooth that caused the root canal to have to happen, I was, cussing out those little kids, and just behaving in terrible ways. And so it's just nuts, dude. I mean, the repercussions that we can have to suffer, but rightfully because of something we've done wrong, is crazy. Because I removed my records from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in February 2024, and now it's the 1st of January 2025. And so I got, until February when I can reinstate my records. And it's just like sometimes you're just doing stuff so bad, so wrong, such terrible behavior, and you know it, at least to a degree. And if you know, we can't be held accountable for anything we don't know, right? That's doctrinal, that's just the truth. But I was born into the covenant of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was raised within the church, and I knew how to behave to a degree. I mean, I'm still just a sinful by nature human being, as we are all equally. But, I mean, I knew right from wrong, and I was definitely acting out of wrong. And so, man, dude, gosh, I deserve this, man. But what's so cool is, like, right now, I started this company, right? I founded In The Image Clothing Company within, like, the last 4th of 2024. And this is the time when this filling material is finally, like, wearing down to allow my jaw to get centered. And now it's like, all right, now I'm dedicating my life to a company that's centered around the gospel of Jesus Christ, and I'm doing all that I can. I'm still going to continue to sin for the rest of my days on this planet. I'm a human being. That's what we're here to do. As weird as that might sound to some. Sinful by nature. Adam fell that men might be, and men are, that they might have joy, right? That contrast, the knowledge of good and evil, that's within the Book of Mormon. So it's been a whole thing, man. So anyway, I just wanted to be very deliberate, very, very sure to document this in an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, my whole root canal experience, because it's something that changed my entire life in a lot of ways, and in ways that I didn't realize that's what it was coming from. You know, I remember, just a lot of stuff that I couldn't explain, emotions I was feeling, you know, stuff that, you know, the intention of taking all these mental health medications and stuff was to relieve. It was coming from a physical inability to breathe. At least a lot of the amplification of what I was feeling within my own life, but I was also just within a dynamic that was really, really not a good place to be at the time. But all that just being amplified by not being able to physically have my jaw align and just breathe, and have my whole spine was tweaked, and my, you know, everything that we now talk about through In the Image Clothing Company. But that's the thing that I always discuss, is I speak out of experience, and we discuss undisputed universal truths that apply to every human and will forever. Same kind of thing. Anybody ever out there? I mean, we've talked about the jaw so much, we always will, as In the Image Clothing Company, and dental work is a huge thing, because anything that's foreign placed into your mouth, your jaw can't accommodate for. Something foreign, it can accommodate for itself as far as your own teeth and anything that's your own mouth, but something placed in there foreign, it can only do so much to try to accommodate, but it can't. It's unnatural. It's a foreign thing to your body. So it's been something that was huge, something huge for me physically, emotionally, within my walk with Christ. It's something that, you know, was kind of a punishment in a justified good way, because I was doing some terrible things. And there's no kind of coincidences that exist. And it was, right, the day that I was cussing these kids out and behaving in ways I shouldn't, I had this happen. So a lot of perspective that I gained within this, man, and grateful to have been able to do that. So anyway, today, like I said, is the 1st of January 2025, brother. And I'm not trying to make this something it isn't. You know, the woman with the issue of blood within Scripture, she bled for 12 years, and then she was healed. I was 13 when I got this root canal. It's 12 years later. And now I have founded In the Image Clothing Company, and now having this company geared around, well, centered around the gospel of Jesus Christ, but geared around our fleshly bodies and allowing them to work. It's kind of crazy, man. A lot of symbolism. I didn't choose the timing on that. And there's a lot of stuff within our company that I didn't choose to set up the way that it is. It's very symbolic, and we'll talk about things as and when and if we do. So, okay. Anyway, thank you for listening to this episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, episode 24, My Root Canal Story. So, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the truth of all things. The gospel of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the truth, but that church is the true church. And don't believe me. because I didn't even believe it at certain times. But now I'm doing all that I can and will do all that I can to continue to be a member of that church, reinstate my records, and go forward as a disciple of our living God, Jesus Christ. So, thank you. My name is Evan Strong. We got things to come, man. In the Image Clothing Company music, the main side of things, In the Image Clothing Company, where we address the human body. It's all centered around the gospel of Jesus Christ, because nothing can't be. It's the truth of all things. So, yeah. So cool, man. Takes a lot sometimes to really get us to see what we already know. And that's weird. But that's why it's called the paradoxical gospel. The good news. Good news is sometimes a very backward thing, right? It's like that whole thing about you tell your friends the truth if you love them, or your family, which are your friends as well, even if the truth is hard and it hurts. It's a paradox. It might hurt them to tell them the truth, but do it. It's the right thing to do. Yeah. So, I want to express my gratitude for repentance, the ability to apologize to our God directly, and we don't have to go anywhere to do that or go through another human being who's equal to us in order to do that. We can pray to our God any and everywhere and always. We're actually commanded to pray continuously without ceasing. So we all need to just try the best that we can to do that, and we're never going to be able to do that continuous without ceasing. We're sinful by nature human beings. But always coming back and always owning up to the things that we've done, because we've done them. No matter how much we want to deny it, we cannot change what has happened. It has happened, and it did. And I was doing some terrible things that, regardless of what anyone wants to believe here in this, that those are the things that caused me to have to go through a lot of the stuff that I did, is the behavior that I had. It was so terribly wrong. And I recognize that. I can't take back anything I've done, but we can apologize for it and change and move forward different to the best of what we can. Come as you are and leave entirely different, changed by our perfect Savior. And I've definitely been redeemed time and time again. And I've definitely messed up in the same ways time and time again. And I can almost guarantee to you that I will again. All we can do is keep looking toward Christ. That's all we're commanded to do. That's all he wants, is a relationship with us. Because he already knows we're going to mess up. He already knows we're imperfect. But in our weakness is where his strength shines through. So I'm also so grateful for the ability to share my own stories. Growing up, I felt so silenced, like I couldn't speak on my own experience, but it's my own experience. And that's repentance in itself, for holding back, fearing man more than God. Something I definitely did very, very, very often. Way too many times. Once too many is too many. So, okay. Thank you.